a really big store. Hey my loves, welcome back to my channel. As you can see by today's video, this is going to be a Korean cooking class, basically, virtually. This idea was brought about by my mom. Her birthday is October 15th, and all she wanted for her birthday this year was to get the family together and learn how to cook some Asian dishes that my grandmother has made for us all of our lives. I thought it was a fantastic idea because we love these dishes. And we need to know how to make them as a family so that we can pass down these recipes for years to come. Side note, my grandmother is Korean, obviously, if it's not obvious yet. And you'll hear me refer to her as Harmony, and that's because that's literally the translation of grandmother in Korean. And that's what I've called her all my life. So if you hear me say Harmony throughout this video, I'm referring to my cute grandmother. So yes. Also, side note, for all you big critics out there, if you maybe have made some of these dishes or know about these dishes at all, and maybe you don't make them quite like my grandmother does, that is completely your business, and I respect that. But also, we don't need to hear about it at all. I love how she makes it, and I'm excited to make everything how she makes it. Now that we're finally done getting all the groceries, let's get started. We start with a little bit of food prep, but everything else we basically prep as we are about to cook it. First up, we have Carbi. It's one of my favorite Korean dishes of all times. It's the same thing as bulgogi if you've ever had it or heard of it, but Carbi has bone in and bulgogi is boneless. As you do with hopefully any meat that you'd cook, you start by washing it. Here's us washing the Carbi, and my harmony had already prepared some bulgogi the night before. Once you wash the meat and let it soak for a little bit, you pat it dry and lay it out on a pan or on your countertop so you can begin seasoning it. I have two quick disclaimers. For one, the measurements are going to be a little off because, as most of you might know, grandmothers do not measure things when they cook, they do it by eye. And my second disclaimer is my family has never been good at making small portions of things, so everything is definitely like family sized or for like 8 or more people. So for Carbi, you start with sugar, and yes, a lot of things for these Korean dishes, my grandmother makes us do by hand because your hand has its own seasoning. Yes, that's like a real thing. Everyone loves some garlic, so you add a little bit of garlic. Again, I put the measurements on this video and in my description, but again, she really does eye a lot of things, so it's hard to just say like, oh, it needs this much because as you see, we're just pouring it in. Next up, you add in some sesame seed oil. I will tell you, if you're ever cooking with sesame seed oil, no matter what you're making, don't go crazy with it. Don't use too much because it is a very strong taste.
I'm gonna measure because this is a big one. All right. Wait a second.
1,
2, 3,
you guys say something?
4,
She watching.
5. Oh, because you got a massage.
5.
Massage brand. Love. As you will notice, as we cook more of the dishes, she doesn't use a lot of salt. So for this meat, the soy sauce is really all is the seasoning. That's why it's so much in there because it is the salt and seasoning for the meat. Next is some green onions. Chop them nice and long and thick. They're just going to be on the grill or in your skillet, so they're going to be amazing when they're done. And then some white onions. Just chop them up, big slices, nothing too fine. And as you will learn today, my grandmother is a savage. She literally tastes her raw meat to make sure it's seasoned correctly. It had needed a little more seasoning, so we added some more soy sauce. It's best when it can sit and marinate overnight, but we started it first so it could marinate throughout the day.
It's not over there, so you can use that one, honestly, though.
It's right.
So next up, we have cucumber kimchi. It's one of everyone's favorites. You can almost use any vegetable. A lot of times at restaurants, you'll see cabbage kimchi. I've even seen bean sprout kimchi and everything like that. But my grandmother just uses cucumbers, and it's just what we like. So pretty self-explanatory. They're just cutting up the cucumbers. There's not a specific size that you have to cut them. So now you add in the red pepper flakes. They're actually kimchi red pepper flakes, literally made for this. You'd think that you need like a sauce or something, but actually when you massage it in, the cucumbers itself make the whole dish juicy. You'll see as we keep adding things in and massaging it in with our hands. Now we're going to add in a little bit of salt. You really just salt it to your tasting and to your liking, but honestly, you'll see that in a lot of these recipes, they don't call for a lot of salt because the actual, things that we make it with have a lot of their own flavor, and we like that flavor to stand out. But yes, you add a little sugar in, it kind of balances out the spice because those flakes are pretty spicy. Now, another repeat ingredient is roasted sesame seeds. And you can see my mom throwing in the green onions, and they're basically done. You just massage it in and let it sit in the refrigerator overnight to marinate and eat and enjoy. Next up, we have the potato salad. As my dad stressed that he wanted me to point out, potato salad is not a quote unquote Korean dish, but the way that my grandmother makes it is definitely very different than probably a lot of you guys make it, or maybe like quote unquote Americans make it. It's not traditional. So let's go. So of course you let your potatoes boil so that they can get soft and you can mash them up. You also boil some eggs so that you can peel them and crush them up as well. As you see that we're just mixing everything in right now. So other than potatoes and eggs, her main ingredient is actually mayonnaise, and specifically Hellman's mayonnaise. I've never literally seen her buy another brand of mayonnaise when she makes this potato salad. And watch how little mustard she uses. Like, boom, that's it. Literally, we used a 5-pound bag of potatoes and a squirt of mustard. So that's like a huge difference if you can imagine. Next, you add in your green onions, and then my mom kind of throws in white onions as well, but you can kind of barely see them because they kind of blend in. In case y'all were wondering, no, I didn't forget to film the salt. That's literally it. You let the ingredients speak for yourself, you mix it all in, and you're done. Let's eat. Okay, just kidding. It's not quite time to eat yet. We have spinach up next. It's super simple, super easy, super quick. You literally throw the spinach in there like just long enough to blanch it, which literally means like get it wet and hot and take it out. After you're done with that, you kind of run them under cold water just to kind of further clean them off and everything. And then my hominy squeezes all that water out, or as much water as possible, because you know they hold a lot of water. So just basically get them as dry as you possibly can. Now add your sesame seed oil. Then add in your salt. You don't need too much because that sesame seed oil will speak for itself. We're also going to add in some garlic. We love garlic and it's so yummy, and you can really add in as much as you want. It just increases the flavor. It doesn't, make it salty or anything. Last but not least, you're going to do your roasted sesame seeds. Mix it all up and you're done. We didn't mean to not make that much. My parents just bought this big bag and they thought it was going to really spread. And I was like, no, spinach shrinks. It's okay though. So next up we have kimbap, and basically you can compare it to like your California rolls or whatever. You start with making an egg. You just fry the egg. We use 2 eggs, beat them together and fried them. You can do it as thin as you'd like. It doesn't have to be super thick. We thought we did it too thin, but it was perfectly fine. Now basically you're going to get all of your ingredients that are going to be inside, and you're going to cut them into strips like so. That's the yellow radishes on the left, and they're cutting them in half. And then my mom was cutting up the eggs. We have shredded carrots and our imitation crab meat. There's my brother being silly. We steamed our white rice. You need the 9-grain rice so that you can make sticky rice. The way to make sticky rice is add more water, you guys. Like, you need more water to make your rice stickier, and trust me, you really need sticky rice to make this. And also, the way that you get most of your flavor is either in your meat or your rice. So in our instance, we had to use our rice. So add your salt, your sesame seed oil, and your roasted sesame seeds into your rice for the flavor. Obviously, the pro, my hominy, is going to show us all how to do it correctly. You get your scoop of rice. You don't try to pack it in. It doesn't have to be too thick because obviously it'll be way too thick to roll up. You'll see soon. You spread it out with your hands, and as you can tell, it's like sticky rice. You need sticky rice. I can't stress that enough. One thing I want to stress to you all, she was making sure we knew when she's doing what she's doing now, she's not like pressing it down, she's spreading the rice apart. So don't like spread it and press it in. Just spread it apart and leave it be, because she kept hitting our hands. But now you literally just line up everything, your spinach, your yellow radish, your crab meat, imitation crab meat, your carrots and your egg, and you add that all in the middle. And then you start to roll. And I want to stress also, you have to roll it tight from the beginning. The seaweed sheets, they seem like they'll be very brittle, but they're really not. They can really hold their own. I promise they can withstand a lot. So roll it tight. Don't be scared of like breaking the seaweed. I promise it probably won't break. You need your little bowl of water to kind of wet the edge so that it can kind of add that extra stick. And then you have your bamboo sheet and you wrap it real tight and kind of squeeze it. Just make sure everything's sticking together.
Get your good cutting board. Brenda, cutting board.
You can probably use a small one.
Yeah.
You said the kitchen is the wrong one.
Definitely have the wrong one.
Oh, sorry.
It's not your turn.
That's not my turn.
How big you like it?
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
It's
good.
fine. That's fine.
Watch your finger.
I'll go ahead and take
Taste it.
that. I'll take
Taste
that.
it.
I'll take that.
You got it?
Right over there.
You want this one, Miss Amir? This night?
That's good.
Is it good?
Tastes good.
Okay, I'll go next then. So hers is
Okay, my son.
How many? He's literally done nothing. Yeah, yeah.
When you just send that's all you gotta do.
All it needs is some wasabi sauce.
Tastes
Y'all need
good.
some sauce.
It needs some wasabi
I got-
sauce.
Oh, so sorry.
It's not salty.
Or some soy
Brandon,
sauce.
I bought those little blue cups.
I think you may have to add some stuff to the
I
bowl.
feel like I'm definitely next.
Thank you.
Some more.
You think put some more stuff in those?
Yeah, I think there's some like more sauce.
More sauce?
Yeah, taste it.
Last but not least, we have mandu. You can kind of compare it to egg rolls when you fry it or dumplings if you steam it. We start off with our cabbage and we just lightly boil it for about 3 to 5 minutes. You'll need some type of blender or food processor of some sort. You're going to blend up your onions, your white onions, your carrots, and your cabbage in that food processor. And make sure they're nice and fine and really small. So the next part is a little strenuous. You dump all of those blended items, your white onion, your carrots, and your cabbage, into a cheese towel. And my homie made it into like a blanket style or like pillowcase style, I guess, literally for this purpose. And you literally squeeze out all of the water. She said that she actually sometimes will put it in the dryer. I kid you not. She said she'd put it in the dryer so that it could like literally dry it out and get all the water out, because you need as much water out as you can. And trust me, it seems impossible because it just kept squeezing and squeezing. But once we got it as dry as we could, we add it to our meat. Our meat is ground beef and ground pork, and then you add a couple of eggs in there. And you're going to add some sesame seed oil and a couple of roasted sesame seeds as well. That's coming up pretty soon. You add your salt. Remember, you are kind of seasoning meat, so you do need a good amount of salt, not overpowering though. But just remember, if you don't put enough salt, you can always dip things in sauces and soy sauce, so that can act as your seasoning as well. But mix that all up really nice together.
Pay attention.
Just gonna steam it up first, and then you're gonna put it in the skillet just to cook it.
Yeah, we do. Thank you.
This what you want?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
cover up.
Cover up? Cover what up? This?
Oh, I'll show you.
To not let the steam out, because it's already supposed to be steamed.
Shut up. It's not steaming.
I have one of these pots. I never used it.
Okay. Don't touch it, wait.
Okay.
Squeeze it down with your finger.
Say it.
Oh, this is where it gets
Story
tricky.
time.
This is where it gets tricky.
That means you don't put it too fat.
Angie.
I'm gonna mess up a whole bunch of things. Okay, you know what this reminds me of?
What?
Freezing
Raise your
the fish.
attention.
Put the baby in the blanket.
I got your towel.
So my hominy is just preparing her steamer to get them all steamed. You don't have to do that part of steaming. You can go straight to the fryer, but we like to do that part because it kind of leaves you with a softer inside.
And you see, you tried to make it fancy.
Hominies looks pretty fancy.
I'm not even no promises.
Oh,
There you go. See there? See there?
Now we as a family are all trying to do it. Some of us did better than others, but I won't say no names. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone did a really good job, seriously. It was really fun. Now it's time to cook everything that needs to be cooked. We were just steaming and frying the mandu, and we love when the bulgogi and the carbi is made on the grill. You don't have to make it on the grill. You can definitely get a skillet and do it on the stovetop, but the taste of the grill is so much better. Ooh, it was so delicious, y'all. I'm getting hungry even watching this right now. It's like my favorite meat to eat. I promise you, you'll love it. So here's the finished outcome of everything on the table. We were about to dig in and grub, y'all. It was so delicious. I hope you guys loved this video and learned a lot. Please ask questions in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.